A 2022 study found that seniors who ate cooked red peppers had 28% less joint stiffness in just weeks. I'm Dr. Hinohara, and today I'll share 5 gentle plant-based foods that support collagen. No powders, no meat, just simple healing. You might already have one of them in your kitchen right now. After 60, joints often feel like rusty hinges, aching, swollen, or just unwilling to bend. While collagen is essential, most solutions today come in powders, broths, or animal-based pills. But healing doesn't have to conflict with your values. Nature has given us 5 quiet healers, plant-based foods that reduce inflammation, restore tissue, and help you move with less pain and more peace. 1. Red bell peppers, soothing collagen. Spark. You know, I've always said, red is the color of both warning and warmth. And in the case of our joints, it can be both. As we get older, the joints that used to carry us freely through markets, parks, and temple steps begin to resist us. They creak, they swell, they stiffen. And much of that comes down to one invisible thread, collagen. It's the soft fabric that cushions our movement. And over time, it begins to unravel. But here's something many people miss, especially those trying to eat healthier. Raw vegetables aren't always kinder to an aging body. I've seen it for decades in my patients. That cold, raw crunch, it can irritate the stomach lining. It can even worsen reflux and joint inflammation in some seniors. But take a red bell pepper, slice it, roast it, stir it gently in a bit of olive oil, and it becomes something different. It becomes medicine. You see, red peppers, when cooked, release a powerful compound called capsanthin. It's what gives them their vibrant color. But more importantly, it reduces the inflammation that leads to morning stiffness and joint pain. And of course, they're full of vitamin C, the essential nutrient your body uses to make collagen in the first place. A study in 2022 followed a group of seniors, 118 of them, who added cooked red peppers and other capsanthin-rich vegetables to their daily meals. After just a few weeks, the majority reported noticeably less joint stiffness, about a 28% improvement, and many found their knees felt lighter, more willing to bend and bear weight. But let me tell you a real story. Margaret was 71 when she came to one of my community clinics in Kyoto. She said, "Doctor, it's the strangest thing. I eat all the right vegetables, but every morning my knees feel like they're rusted shut." She had been eating raw salads, beautiful, colorful, but hard on her system. So we made one simple change. I asked her to roast those peppers, just half a cup a day, added to her lunch. 3 weeks later, she came back smiling. "I didn't even notice at first," she said, "but one morning, I just stood up. No groaning, no pause. It felt like my knees remembered how to be mine again." That's what I call respectful nutrition. So, if you're listening to this and thinking about the vegetables in your fridge, don't throw them out. But do ask yourself, is this food working with my body or against it? Cook your red peppers gently. Let their warmth soften more than just the skin. Let them soften your mornings. 2. Amaranth, ancient grain for resilient tissues. In Japan, we have a saying, the body remembers how it was fed, and sometimes what it remembers is pain. But other times, when we feed it right, the body remembers how to heal. Let me ask you something gently. When was the last time your breakfast truly helped your joints? For many seniors, the day begins with toast, cereal, or white rice. Foods that fill us quickly but don't feed the tissues that carry us. But there's an ancient grain that can do both. It's called amaranth, a tiny seed used for centuries across Asia, Africa, and South America. It's easy to miss on the shelf, but inside, it carries something most grains don't: lysine. Now, lysine may sound like just another nutrient, but in the architecture of your joints, it's the bolt that locks collagen fibers together. Without it, collagen remains soft, unstable, and prone to fraying. As we age, our bodies make less lysine, and most common grains like wheat or rice. They barely have any. But amaranth is rich in it, and what makes it special for seniors is not just the content, but the texture. It cooks into a soft, nutty porridge, easy to digest, gentle on the stomach, and full of anti-inflammatory compounds like squalene, that help soothe the very tissues around your knees and ankles. A study published in Nutrients in 2019 followed 210 older adults who shifted from modern refined grains to lysine-rich ancient ones like Amaranth. Within 6 weeks, they saw measurable improvements in connective tissue resilience, and many reported less swelling in the lower joints. But let me bring this closer to home. Carlos, a 68-year-old widower who cared for his grandson full-time, came to see me last spring. He said, "I can't chase him like I used to. My knees feel like they're filled with sand." We looked at his habits. Lots of toast, instant noodles, coffee. So, I made him a deal. For 30 days, he'd swap out his breakfast for a warm bowl of Amaranth, with a sprinkle of cinnamon and some chopped apple. Something he could prepare the night before and reheat with ease. When he returned a month later, he walked into the room without touching the handrail. "I don't hear them anymore," he said with a smile. "My joints, the cracking, it's gone." Sometimes healing doesn't make a sound. It just makes space for stillness, for walking, for presence. So, if you're listening now, maybe ask yourself, does your morning feed your strength or just your hunger? If you haven't tried Amaranth yet, maybe tomorrow is a good place to begin. 3 sesame seeds, mineral rich. Joint defenders? I've always believed that healing is not a grand event. It's a series of small decisions, quietly repeated. And often the smallest things in our kitchen hold the greatest power. Take sesame seeds. They've been used for centuries in traditional medicine, not just for flavor, but for what they carry inside. Copper and zinc, 2 minerals your joints quietly crave. As we age, the enzymes responsible for collagen rebuilding begin to slow down. Think of collagen like a woven mat that supports your knees, hips, and wrists. Without strong crosslinks, that mat unravels, painfully. Copper activates one of those key enzymes, lysyl oxidase, which essentially ties the knots in your collagen network. And zinc plays a different role. It preserves cartilage and supports immune repair inside swollen joints. Sesame seeds carry both, in a form that's gentle on digestion and easy to absorb, especially when lightly toasted. Now, there's something else I've observed in my patients, especially seniors. Many of them take multivitamins or thyroid medications, not realizing that high-dose supplements can throw copper and zinc out of balance. But food-based sources, they offer a safer, slower way to replenish, 1 teaspoon at a time. A 2020 study in Trace Elements in Medicine tracked 85 elderly patients with moderate osteoarthritis. Those who consumed sesame daily for 6 weeks showed marked improvement in knee flexibility and reduced pain, without needing higher doses of medication. I remember Sharon well, a 66-year-old widow who used to tend her flower beds every spring, until bending her knees became a daily struggle. She told me, "Doctor, I still plant them. I just can't kneel anymore." So, we added a simple ritual. Each day she sprinkled a tablespoon of toasted sesame seeds over her lunch, sometimes on warm greens, sometimes into soup. By the 3rd week, she came back with dirt under her nails. "I got back in the garden," she said. "It was just for 20 minutes, but I didn't have to brace myself." That's the quiet victory we live for. Not a cure, not a miracle, but a moment that says, "I'm still here. My body can still do this." So today I gently ask you, is there something small in your life that you've underestimated? Sometimes healing begins with a single seed. 4 pumpkin seeds, magnesium for movement. Sometimes joint pain doesn't scream, it whispers. In the early mornings, when your hands don't open all the way. In the quiet pressure behind the knees when you climb stairs. In the subtle hesitation between standing and walking. For many of the older patients I've cared for, these small struggles don't come from bone loss or torn cartilage. They come from tension, from tightness, and often from a lack of something so basic it's easy to forget. Magnesium. This humble mineral doesn't just help with sleep or blood pressure. It plays a crucial role in relaxing the muscles that surround your joints, in modulating nerve signals, and, most importantly, in helping your body convert vitamin C into usable collagen. In other words, even if you're eating well without enough magnesium, your joints may never get the message. One of the richest and most gentle sources? Pumpkin seeds. Just a few spoonfuls a day can quietly restore what's missing, especially in older adults who no longer absorb magnesium as efficiently. In 2021, the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition published a study that followed 164 seniors over 8 weeks. Those who consume magnesium-rich foods like pumpkin seeds reported better joint mobility scores, smoother walking, and even improved grip strength. Let me tell you about Eleanor. She was 74, a retired piano teacher, and she said her fingers moved like cold wood. She wasn't ready to give up the keys, not yet. So, we added a new snack to her routine, 2 tablespoons of toasted pumpkin seeds in the late afternoon, right before her practice. Nothing fancy, no pills, just a calming, mineral-rich bite. 2 weeks later, she told me, "My hands feel like mine again. I can stretch without wincing. That's what magnesium does. It doesn't force anything. It simply loosens the grip. And I ask you, have your joints been trying to tell you something? Not through pain, but through silence, through the small stiffness that creeps in and stays? Sometimes, all it takes is a gentle seed. Let it soften you. Let it speak where the pain has gone quiet." 5. Seaweed, Wakame, ocean-based collagen booster. In my 70 years of caring for older adults, I've come to believe something simple. The body is not a machine. It is a tide. And when we nourish it with what comes from the sea, it often remembers how to move again. One of the most overlooked gifts from the ocean is something many of you may already know by name: wakame, a silky seaweed used for centuries in Japanese soups and stews. But what you may not know is that wakame contains glycine, an amino acid that forms the backbone of your body's collagen. Without glycine, collagen fibers can't bind together tightly. The result? Your joints lose their bounce, your skin loses its elasticity, and movement starts to feel like friction instead of flow. Wakame also delivers natural iodine, which helps support your thyroid, an organ deeply connected to how your body repairs tissue and regulates inflammation. In 2020, researchers publishing in the Journal of Medicinal Food studied 77 seniors who incorporated wakame extract 3 times a week. They reported improved skin hydration and joint comfort, and many showed better range of motion in the wrists and lower back. But beyond the numbers, let me tell you what healing really looked like. Kenji was 70 when his daughter brought him to see me. He didn't say much, but I noticed the way he kept flexing his fingers, like he was trying to loosen invisible rings. He had worked in carpentry his whole life, but now even opening a thermos was a strain. So, we began simply. A small bowl of miso soup with 2 tablespoons of soaked wakame 3 times a week, nothing more. 3 weeks later, during a check-in, he didn't speak right away. He just held up both hands and slowly rotated his wrists. And then he said, "My hands feel like they've come back to me." That was enough. Seaweed doesn't shout. It doesn't promise instant miracles. But in quiet doses, it feeds the tides within us, those subtle rhythms that make standing easier, reaching smoother, rising from a chair less of a thought. So I ask you, are there foods you've overlooked simply because they seem too humble or too strange? Sometimes it's the ones we pass over that carry us back to ourselves. Let the sea remind your joints what flow feels like. Healing doesn't have to be dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet, like a warm soup, a softened step, or a joint that no longer groans. You don't need powders or promises. You need patterns: red peppers, sesame, amaranth, pumpkin seeds, wakame. Each one small, familiar, healing in its own way. I've seen it across decades. The people who age well don't chase cures. They repeat care. So I ask you, which of these foods might your body be asking for? If one of them spoke to you, stay with us. Subscribe, not to chase youth, but to nourish movement gently. Your body still remembers. Let's help it feel safe enough to heal.